We have diaphragms which help us to take in the quantity of air that we require, and then we extrapolate oxygen from that. So, there have always been extinctions on this planet, but those species that were able to evolve and adapt, they're the ones who are still here. And so we've gone through various adaptations, and it would seem to me, now remember, I'm expressing an opinion that's based upon my studies over the last, we'll say, 42 years of my life, and listening to various different experts and reading, various different research papers. And so we have made changes in terms of our anatomy and morphology and so on. And those changes then guaranteed our success. However, it would seem to me that the body made changes that are of a temporal basis. In other words, they are very specific to time. And it wasn't always the best adaptation or change, but it was the change that made sure that we survived. An example, for instance, would be if I get an unexpected perturbation, a fright, somebody fires a gun behind my back and I hear a noise, I'll do this. What I won't do is I won't do this. Now that is a demonstration for you in terms of hierarchy. That shows you that not all muscles are the same. It tells you that there are certain muscles or muscle fibers that are more prone to whatever terms you wish to use, contracting or shortening, and there are other muscles that are more prone, therefore, to being inhibited. So and these are really the terms that I encourage people to use. And there are times when let's keep it to humans, Homo sapiens, there are times when perhaps it might not be as gross, it might not be as big a movement. So let's just say a small number of fibers go into, spasm or contraction, and then they don't come out. In other words, doing this is fine, and then you eventually come back out of that. But there are times when somebody experiences an insult or an injury, and they will get this. So it could have been, for instance, that there was a tear in tissue. How are your muscle fibers going to help you if there's been an injury or an insult to an area? Well, the only thing that muscle fibers can do is to contract. So therefore, people contract. Now, why would they want to contract? Well, we could surmise that they're contracting in order to create a splinting. We don't want any excessive movement taking place because there's a tear, and we don't want to make the tear worse. So perhaps the spasm is there as a protective facility while healing takes place. Now, muscle fibers are red, predominantly red in color. I mean, they obviously change color depending on fiber types, and there's all sorts of fiber types, type 2M, type 2X. We've all manner of fiber type in the 21st century, but ultimately they really can be explained as type 1 and type 2 fiber types. So they're red or they're whitish or pink, somewhere in the middle, but they're very well supplied or serviced with blood. So they heal quite quickly. However, you can be left with this spastic activity. Why would that be the case? And that can last for a lifetime. It could last a year or a lifetime. And it requires a qualified therapist, knowledgeable, to come along and to offer feedback to say, you don't need to be in spasm anymore. You're okay. You can let go. The healing has taken place. And you think, well, why does the body not know that? Why is the body not intelligent enough to know that? Well, the body's not perfect. We may think the body is perfect, but the body's not perfect.